Chair recognizes Senator Mitchell.
No, it's not. Thank you very much. Madam Vice President, there was a little slogan that they used to say about the Baptist churches, that the Baptists have to divide in order to multiply. Yes, you have to divide in order to multiply. Yes, right. Multiply by dividing, yeah. And I think that is a roundabout way of saying that while I was looking at the statistics just a few minutes ago, and they say that the largest Christian denomination, because the largest religion in the country is Christian, and the largest denomination is Protestant, and within the Protestants, the largest of those denominations is the Baptist, 35%. And they say the Anglicans are 15 and the Roman Catholics 14. And then there are others going down the line. But the interesting thing about our country is that if you look at the power construct in the country, and I was just doing a poll here in the Senate, almost 50% of the people in this place are Anglicans. So that when you look at the power structure of the country, I think at one point it was like 23% of the House of Assembly, the last House of Assembly, were actually Anglicans. And so the largest of the power group, largest block in the power group always seems to end up being the Anglican Church. And Bernard Nottage, God rest him, tells the story of his actually being a member of Salem Baptist Church. But his mother determined that if he was going to advance, he needed to be a member of St. Agnes. So he went to St. Agnes as a child, although he is a Baptist by birth. That's the way our social history runs in the Bahamas. And still, people think of, even though there is no state church, I mean, just with this last funeral with Bradley Roberts, people were asking how was it possible that this state service was going to be held at the Roman Catholic Church, because the state church is the Christ Church Cathedral. Of course, there is no state church, but of course, the British, when they came here, planted the Anglican Church, and they were all Anglican, and so the power structure just devolved on them. And I was saying jokingly across the floor that Anglican priests were actually paid by the government. They were on the public payroll up until 1869, thereabouts, something like that. Yeah, when the Disestablishment Resolution took place. And we all jokingly said the Methodists got together, and because they were in the ascendancy in the assembly that time, and decided enough of this. And fancy word, disestablishment, but the effect of it was the Anglican priests were no longer on the public payroll, and they had to fend for themselves. Thus we had disestablishment. And you know, the church has been, everyone said it here before me, the church has been very much involved in the social history of our country. Again, inspired by the previous speaker, I was at the Church of God for Prophecy one day, and the preacher got up and he said, you know, when I was a child, they used to call us jumpers. He says, but guess what? Everybody's jumping now. And that is so from the Roman Catholic Church through all the Protestant denominations. Try as these priests might in the established churches to stop people from clapping in church. It can't be done. I think that ship has already sailed. And Dr. Cleveland Eneas used to always tell the story of the person from the Baptist church who visited an Anglican church and during the sermon said, "Praise the Lord." And someone turned around and said, "We don't praise the Lord in here." Anyway, that's a bit of our social history. As I understand it, though, the particular issue of mischief, and I would simply ask in the wind-up to this debate, some reassurance that these 2 points have been covered in this legislation. As I understand it, the convention has existed for 83 years as a formal body, as an unincorporated association in law, and has had a set of trustees from time to time. So that means 1935 or thereabouts, Reverend A.C. Simonette, I'm told, was the founding president of the convention. And the convention owns property vested in those trustees. Just tangentially, for example, Progressive Liberal Party is also an unincorporated association and property is vested in its trustees. And we are now applying for a company, which will be a not-for-profit, so that our property will be vested in a body corporate as opposed to in trustees. So this is a modernizing or reforming effort to separate the liabilities of this organization from the body corporate, so that the trustees are not personally liable for any debts or suits and so on and so forth once this incorporation is done. Yes, trustees now, if trustees are, they're personally liable. Okay, so the trustees, I think the F&M is also an unincorporated association. Right. Right. No, that's what I'm saying. So this is a reforming statute which has that effect of separating the liabilities from the persons. Okay, so that's one. All right. Corporate takes on, is liable, not the individual trustees, which is what now obtains. So that's one. Number two is that there was a problem, I'm advised, that individual churches, and you know the Baptist is made up of individual churches, would apply for duty-free concessions or charitable concessions under the law, and were denied these concessions because they were not within the remit of the law. The convention had always thought that this was a routine kind of procedure because we've talked about how churches are formed in the Baptist church. A congregation gets together, forms themselves, and then they would apply for this status, and you want to bring an organ in, you want to bring pews in, but it was turned down because you had to pay the customs dues. Similarly with real property tax. So the question is, how do Baptist churches who are in that position get the status which would allow them to get duty-free concessions and the concessions of a charitable body? It is the hope and expectation, as I understand it, that once this is incorporated, those churches who are part of the convention will be able to apply and get the duty-free status for those concessions. And that, I'm hoping, if because that is the expectation of the convention, I'm hoping that the Attorney General is able to say and confirm that this will accomplish that fact. Because that is the mischief they think is going to be cured, I am advised by this. So is that. Thirdly, I've read the bill, and what I would also, it appears to me that the bill does, because the Attorney General said it in his presentation, that the bill does in fact vest the existing property of the convention in this body corporate. And I assume there's no stamp tax, nothing which applies. It's all vested. Right, okay. Right.
The Baptist community is still the owner.
Right.
So there's no pressure of any transfer of tax.
Right, fine. So that I hope applies. So I would only ask for assurances on those two things, really. You've confirmed, one, that the liability, that's just a matter of operation of law. The liability is on the body corporate and not on the individual trustees. Secondly, that those churches that are part of this body corporate will be able to take advantage of the concessions which are available to charitable organizations under the law. And then the third point is that all of the property which is now, and this I would mean the schools, I think, are owned by the convention, that those would now be vested in this body, and of course no transfer taxes apply to the transfers. I would only add this, that in the Foxhill constituency, which I had some association with in the near past, there are four powerful churches in the area. Four powerful churches in the area. Mount Carey, the senator is a member of Mount Carey. St. Paul's, Macedonia, and St. Mark's. St. Mark's being associated with the St. John Society, Mount Carey with Salem, St. Paul's with Bethel, and Macedonia being independent. And they have very powerful influence on the culture in Foxhill, because those are it is around those four churches that the Foxhill Day activities take place, which brings so many people into that community. And so I pay my respects to them as well. My final point would be to join with the concerns expressed over the missing pilot, Byron Ferguson. I know this young man very well, his wife, his family, his brothers, his father, his mother, and they all live in the Foxhill constituency. But quite apart from that, I want to join in my concern, the concerns expressed about how this accident was dealt with. It's something, I said to the family, when there's a homicide in this country, the police have a designated individual that's assigned to coordinate with the family what the police are doing. So they give you a telephone number and they give you a name. And they say, if there is anything you want to know about that investigation, you call that person. And that person will tell you what is happening with the investigation. Now, that does not seem to have applied in this case. Civil aviation is the body, I believe, that's responsible for the investigation. So, right, that's fine. But the issue they were talking about is, how do I get information? Right, how do I get information? And are the officials speaking with one voice? I was giving the example while you were off mic of the police. If there's a homicide, the police assign someone. They give you a name. They give you a telephone number. If you need any information, you call that person. And they tell you, today we did this, tomorrow we expect to do that. And then that's how these things should work. And it must be heart-wrenching. I mean, and I'll make this wider point, which I made to a lot of the younger people who are coming up. I just say to myself, and this is an old man's lament, the young black male in this country can't seem to get a break. I mean, you find this striving young fella. I mean, you've never met someone, a decent man, right? Raising a family, working hard, and it just seems like every time you find someone of this nature, so they just snatch from you. I say, goodness, what are we going to do? Whether it's, a homicide or an accident of some kind. So it's a heart-wrenching thing, and I know his family and all his brothers. I mean, and his wife are heartbroken over this. It's a very difficult time. And it's not a good thing to be having a public conversation about this in the press. And that's why it's all the more important for you to have just a point person who's dealing with this, because this is a really sensitive issue for people. So that's what I'd like to add with that. And I would look forward to, as I said, the response on those 3 points that I raised with regard to the law. I join with all those who say that the Baptist Church has a fine tradition of public advocacy, of fighting for human rights and civil rights in the country, and we pay respects to all of that and thank them and all their leaders for the services which they've given to our country, and we'll continue to do everything to help support their work going forward. Thank you, and we'll support the bill.